Hi, I'm Erika. I've worked with a lot of test takers over the years, and many of them want what I have, a 99th percentile GRE 330 plus score. Over the last decade, I've helped thousands of students reach their GRE score goals. And along the way, I've become very familiar with the kinds of mistakes that keep test takers from getting a high GRE score. In this video, I'm going to share 7 of the most common GRE mistakes that you need to avoid if you want to get a 330 plus on the GRE, like me. The first mistake that keeps students from achieving a high GRE score is practicing only hard questions. I see this one a lot, especially from test takers with high score goals. And it makes sense on its face. Study for the score you want, right? But this betrays a serious misunderstanding of the test algorithm. The GRE is section adaptive. This means that your performance on the first quantiverbal section determines whether you get the easy, medium, or hard second quantiverbal section. Your performance on that second section as a whole is then weighted differently depending on its difficulty. But the first sections are the same for all test takers, composed primarily of medium difficulty questions with some easy and some hard, where each question is weighted equally regardless of its difficulty. So why does this matter? If you only study hard questions and are then unprepared for the easy to medium questions that make up the majority of the first sections, you likely won't get the hard second sections that you've been practicing for. The fix? Ensure your practice is catered to what you'll actually see on test day. If you're already getting the hard second section, sure, practice more hard questions, but be sure you're ready for the medium and easy difficulty questions too. If you're not already getting the hard second section, practice at your current level until you are. Mistake number 2 is running out of time on a section. Now, this is a test day mistake, and you'd be surprised how common this one is. Test takers know that with the GRE's short sections, getting questions wrong can have a big impact on their score. This is especially true with the 12-question first section, where getting more than a few questions wrong will lock you out of the hard second section, which in turn locks you out of a top score. The problem is that a lot of test takers try to counter this by spending extra time with difficult questions in an attempt to maximize the number of questions they get right. But this can actually have the opposite effect. Spending more time with one question reduces the amount of time we have for the remaining questions. So while the extra time might get us one more question right, it can cost us multiple questions later in the section. So how do we solve this? Don't overinvest in any given problem in a section. As we know, they're all worth the same number of points. Which leads us to our next mistake number 3, not taking advantage of mark and review. A lot of test takers don't realize the full power of this feature. They end up in a death struggle with difficult questions before deciding to flag them to come back to at the end of the section, which, because they've spent so much time before flagging, they may not end up with time for. What if I told you can flag a question before over-investing in it? You can flag after a minute if you're pretty sure you're headed down the wrong path solving and you don't want to let the question derail your timing strategy. You can flag after 30 seconds if you've given the question stem a fair shake and it just isn't coming together for you. You can even flag after 5 seconds if your brain is shutting down looking at the problem. Not only does marking and moving on give you the best chance at the other questions in the section, coming back to the question with fresh eyes is often more effective than bullishly slogging away on the first attempt. Now, an important caveat, you should never leave a question blank before flagging and moving on. At the very least, put a random guess in. That way, if something goes wrong and you don't have time to come back, you have a chance of getting the question right. You'll often find that you can do some process of elimination and make an educated guess, and sometimes you'll even stumble on a new way of solving the problem. And always ensure that your scratch paper has enough information that you won't need to repeat work when you come back to the question. The 4th mistake is rushing into solving. Now, I know it's really annoying to tell you not to run out of time and then immediately tell you to slow down. But it's unfortunately true that moving too quickly at the beginning of a question is one of the main things that cost test takers points. There are a lot of different ways this can happen. Misunderstanding what the question is asking for, not figuring out how key pieces of information fit together, totally missing key pieces of information altogether, inadequately setting up your scratch paper for solving, etc., etc. But the fix for all of these potential errors is the same: investing a little extra time up top to process the question. Not only does this increase your chances of getting the question right, it also often saves time by preventing you from going down an incorrect or unnecessarily slow path. Let me know if you want a video series on setting yourself up for success on different types of GRE questions. These are legitimately some of my most powerful strategies. Mistake number 5 is falling into last-second traps. Now, if the last mistake was rushing into solving, this one is rushing into answering. In fact, I often tell my students that most questions are missed in the first 30 seconds or the last 5. Even if you've done an incredible job of setting yourself up for success before solving, it's really easy to get so excited to answer the question that you miss something right at the end. So solving for X instead of Y, forgetting about an edge case, not noticing the one word in an answer choice that makes it too extreme, and so on. These are incredibly frustrating mistakes because they largely catch test takers who almost got the question right. There's a pretty simple fix here. Pause before picking an answer. Ask yourself, am I solving for the right thing? Have I missed something? And my favorite, what's the trap? You'll be amazed at how many questions this can save for you in almost no time at all. Mistake number 6 is going into test day a burnt out mess. I hate to see this one. It's one of the most frequent causes of repeat test taking among my students, but convincing them to avoid it is a tough sell. Test takers want to be as prepared as possible for their test day, so the more practice they cram into the days and hours leading up to their exam, the better, right? Not so. Not only is last-minute practice unlikely to teach you anything, it is likely to both wear and stress you out, leading to worse performance on the actual test. So how do we avoid it? By prioritizing our mental and physical health in the run-up to test day. I recommend taking your last practice test a full week out from your test day. This should give you plenty of time to error log and do a reasonable amount of targeted practice while still reserving the last day or two before your exam for rest and review. Which leads us to our final mistake, mistake number 7, skipping review in your study. We talked about the value of mark and review on test day. Now let's talk about the value of review as a follow-up to your practice. I see so many test takers do a bunch of practice problems, pat themselves on the back, and call it a day. But they've actually missed the most important part of their study session. Review is where the magic actually happens. It's where we figure out what mistakes we made, why we made them, and how we can recognize and avoid them in the future. Without review, we're likely to make the same mistakes over and over and over again, which builds bad habits as we're effectively practicing making the mistakes. The solution to skipping review is doing the opposite, investing time in it. I recommend setting aside as much time for reviewing problems as you do for practicing them. I even recommend spending a little time at the beginning of each study session reviewing your previous day's work. This prompts you to shape your study session around what you're currently struggling with most, as well as ensures that your mistakes are top of mind, so you're less likely to repeat them. I hinted at this earlier, but an error log is an incredibly powerful tool for this. Check out the Target Test Prep channel for more info on how to make and keep a good one. More than any of the mistakes in this video, the worst GRE mistake you can make is one you've made before. Review helps you with that. And those are 7 mistakes you cannot make if you want a 330 plus GRE score. Now, of course, is a 99th percentile GRE score really necessary to get into the program of your dreams? Probably not. But regardless of your score goal, avoiding these mistakes will help you get all the points you can and perform your best on test day. Let me know if this video helped you by liking, and subscribe for more videos from me and the other experts here at Target Test Prep. And if you have questions or comments or suggestions for future videos, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you back here real soon.